Chapter 11, Stratification by Gender and Sexuality. In this chapter, we're going to discuss the social construction of gender, labeling in human sexuality, sociological perspectives on gender, women as the oppressed majority, the workforce of the United States, emergence of a collective consciousness, social policy and gender stratification, the battle over abortion from a global perspective. The social construction of gender, so that just means that society has placed emphasis or rules regarding the behaviors and attitudes of those that are feminine and those that are masculine. Gender role socialization. So when it comes to boys, they have been taught to be active, aggressive, tough, daring, and dominant. Now, homophobia is a fear or a prejudice against homosexuality. And as far as being socialized into a certain gender role, that is emphasized and reinforced by the media. Gender roles are also emphasized by the family, society, the media, anybody that the child is around. So as far as women's gender roles, girls will develop a feminine self-image when they identify with females in books and males in their families and neighborhoods and the media. So basically they're able to see themselves a certain way because they know they are a certain way and society views them as a certain way and expects that behavior. So basically children model the behavior of who they believe they are supposed to be like. Men's gender roles, those are attitudes toward parenting that are changing when it comes to men's gender roles. So now more men will spend time at home sharing responsibilities as far as the family or taking care of the kids or the home. Some men want to stay at home for a while for their jobs, and then some men want to own their own businesses. Others want to work for someone else. So as far as the gender roles, men are having more variety and more respect with that variety when it comes to society. So there is still the idea of the traditional male gender role. And males who don't conform to what society believes they should be or behave like, then they might face criticism. And as far as multiple masculinities, men can play a variety of gender roles. Labeling in human sexuality. So the relationship between gender roles and self-identity can be complex. It depends on how the person sees themselves. It depends on their culture. And it depends on maybe their priorities and maybe the differences that society places on them as far as expectations. So, for instance, in some cultures, women are expected to have multiple babies, and they are to start having those babies after they get married pretty shortly after that. So if the woman in that situation maybe doesn't want to get married young or doesn't want to have kids yet, then she is going against her culture as far as the gender roles they're placing on her. Gender identity is how people see themselves. They may see themselves as male, female. They may see themselves as two-spirits. They may see themselves as transgender or transient as far as moving between the male and female spectrum. So it's just how the person sees themselves. That's the gender identity. The sexual identity is their awareness of being romantically or sexually attracted to a certain group of people. So there is still some stigma when it comes to homosexuality that is decreasing. There is definitely a lot of stigma still when it comes to people that are transgender. And that is not decreasing that much, just in my opinion, from some of the assaults that have been documented as far as the past few years concerning hate crimes and transgender people. So people in the US and many other cultures increasingly accept people of multiple sexual identities and gender identities. Intersections of race, class, and other social factors. So the matrix of domination talks about the convergence, I would say the intersectionality, or the connection or meeting place of different social forces. So that could be someone that is poor, a woman of color, and a woman. And in society, if the society is white, male dominated, then those other social forces the woman is facing, it makes her feel subordination in society. So feminists have addressed some of the needs as far as women go, but they don't specifically address needs for minority women. And historically, natives in North America and some countries in Africa, the women are in charge. But there's other societies as far as the US goes, or Mexican culture, where it's more patriarchal. So this is just a visual of the matrix of domination, and this shows you how many things can have an impact on how someone is perceived in society or the issues they might face. So there's definitely class, age, gender, disability or ability, race and ethnicity, sexual identity, religion, citizenship status. I'm sure there are other things you could think of, but these are the main ones. So here is a quick table of the sociological perspectives on gender. So from the functionalist perspective, gender differentiation contributes to social stability. Conflict perspective states that gender inequality is rooted in the male power over females. The feminist perspective views women's subjugation as being integral to society and social structure. So basically, women help society function. And the interactionist perspective deals with gender distinctions and doing gender as being reflected in people's everyday behavior. So doing gender would be maybe fulfilling those characteristics that are traditionally fitting for a certain gender role. So a mother getting up and cooking breakfast, to a lot of people that would seem as that woman is fulfilling or doing her gender. So women are the oppressed majority. So women have experienced a lot of underrepresentation in the U.S. political structure and in male-dominated jobs, but things are slowly changing. Sexism is the idea that one sex is superior to another, and institutional discrimination is denying someone opportunities and rights because of someone's sex or their gender. So all major institutions of U.S. society are controlled by men. So women all over the world are dealing with the issue of sexism in their countries. Women will suffer a sort of second-class nature, and women aren't responding as passively as before, so there'll be demonstrations or people taking on different roles that are against their traditions. They might be stepping out culturally. So much of exploited labor in developing nations are performed by women, if you think of sweatshops or sex trafficking. And in industrialized countries, there's an equal status seen in the division of housework still. So this figure is just showing that there's gender inequality in housework around the world. And it's showing that the males are in green, the women are in orange, and in various different countries, it's just showing that no matter if the women are rich or poor or middle class, they're still doing more housework than men. So the gender bias in the workforce sort of contributes to the limitations that women face as far as opportunities outside of the home. And so women will have to work more inside the home and carry more of the responsibilities as far as taking care of the home and the children. Women's pay compared to men is steadily increasing, but it has not closed as far as the gap of how much a male is paid over a female. So women do face a glass ceiling, and that's a barrier that prevents them from being promoted in certain situations due to gender, race, ethnicity, or other issues that they might face. And men usually take the jobs with the most financial rewards and the higher positions. As you see, since the 1970s, women have increased their labor force participation rates, except for in Sweden. They have seen a decline in the later years. However, everyone else is going up. So as far as the data for 2015, women were underrepresented in certain jobs and overrepresented in others. So you can just look at this list. As far as being overrepresented, that would be high school teachers, dental hygienists, registered nurses. As far as underrepresented, that would be civil engineers, clergy, and physicians. Women still don't get paid the same amounts as men. However, when men join jobs that are female dominated, they will excel quicker because they want more males to be part of those jobs. However, it's the opposite effect for females that go into male dominated positions. Women deal with juggling work and family, so there's a second shift. After the woman actually gets off work, she has to come home and take care of a lot of the housework and childcare. So greater amounts of time are put for women into caring for children and the household, and it takes a toll on women pursuing their careers. They might not have enough time to study or get all the work done. or any work they might have taken home from their actual job, and it's harder for them to go to conferences, attend meetings, just a lot more to actually juggle because they have more of the responsibility of the household. So these are some reasons why males and females leave work. And women, as you see, are at 44% for leaving work because they want to have more time with their family, whereas for men it's 12%. A change in career is something that men are more focused on as far as leaving a job, or they're earning a degree, and then it's pretty close as far as women for that. And men will leave more if their job isn't satisfying. And so it looks like women will spend more time at their job if it's not satisfying, or if women moved. But that doesn't affect men too much. And as you see, men might not be interested in their field of work anymore, but there's not part of the top 5 reasons for women. Feminism for Americans, as far as present day, began in the feminist movement in 1848. So there were some women that got together, Stanton and Mott. They basically were pioneers when it came to women's rights. And then we had the second wave, which was in the 1960s. They had a lot of books come out. There was the feminine mystique, the second sex, sexual politics, and basically over time women were having to go to work more due to various wars, and also not having access to land as far as farming, so they would have to go out of the home to make more money. Women demanded more rights. They wanted to get more pay. They wanted to have the right to vote, less sexism. Women wanted control over their own bodies. So there were a lot of things, but definitely with the men having to leave for wars, definitely contributed to supporting feminism. In 1973, the Roe v. Wade case granted women the right to terminate pregnancies. Pro-choice groups believe that women have a right to make the decisions concerning their bodies, whereas pro-life groups believe that the baby is living as soon as conception, so they believe that it is considered murder and that it should be illegal. So many places debate abortion, whether people are for it or against it, or people are for it, if for certain reasons as far as rape or incest. It just depends on the person and the state that they live in and their morals and their beliefs about women and abortion and babies and the whole issues. So there are laws that basically prohibit people from having abortions after 3 months. But depending on the state that a person lives in, then it could be 4 weeks or 6 weeks. It just depends. It could be 8 weeks. So when it comes to minors wanting to have abortions, there's issues because people are trying to debate if they should notify the parents or if it's something that maybe someone who's 16 should be able to make for themselves. And then the U.S., we frequently debate if abortion should be made legal, and if it's illegal, what will happen to the women that will still get abortions as far as it not being as safe. So there's a lot for people to talk about, debate, consider when it comes to abortion. So when it comes to the Supreme Court, they will continuously hear cases. So 2/3 of countries around the world allow abortion for health of the mother. and about 1/3 will allow it for economic or social reasons by request. But it just depends on the country. And of course, it's still a huge issue in the U.S., and sometimes the U.S. will not give aid to countries that allow for abortions. So when it comes to abortion, the ones in green are the ones that allow it on a request.